Of the first meme, finish talking so I can destroy you. That's a lot of the attitude in policy debate. Also, the meme on the slideshow it says freshmen, but just imagine it says novices, explaining debate to new novices. You're going to suffer, but you're going to be happy about it. I think I showed you that earlier this semester. It's so accurate. Policy, it straight up is the hardest kind of debate, but kids eat, breathe, and sleep policy. The kids who love it, like your brother, like it took over their life. And your cousin, I think, right, cousin? Yeah. Kids love it so much. And Jack's last year, I loved it. Exactly. Jack's last year said, like, the best compliment. He's like, the only thing I like about school is debating. And so, even though it's tough, it's really motivating. So I want to say that just to kind of get things started, because even though it is hard. So let's look at the word wall. So it's technically called policy debate. Often we just call it policy. The acronym is the weirdest one on this one. The acronym is CX, but and it'll make more sense later. It's short for cross-X. So policy, sometimes its nickname is cross-X debate, and that's because there's so much of it, but I haven't taught you really what that is yet. So you'll see later why. So like always, I think it's helpful to just start wrapping your brain around it with watching the recording from the National Speech and Debate Association. So let's turn screens around during that part, and then we'll break it down more, obviously. But screens facing forward, everybody, in debate 1. Okay. Oh, yeah, you're good.
Is everybody ready? Great. Contention 1 is the result.
Policy debate, sometimes called cross-X debate, is a 2-on-2 debate event. Teams debate against each other. The objective of each team is to convince you, the judge, their policy is preferable. As the judge...
And what you're seeing, this is a normal debate, right? You can see that's either this kid's partner or maybe the judge sitting off to one side. It's a fancy laptop stand, so you're not bending over the whole time. And they're just like in a normal classroom, just like our classroom. So that's normal at a middle school tournament.
You evaluate opposing teams' arguments and determine who most effectively argued their position. It is important to note that your role as a judge is to evaluate the competing arguments in the round. Your views on a topic and your beliefs on the ideal response to that argument should not factor into your decision. Because debaters are required to argue both sides of a topic, it is necessary...
You're going to see some weird bouncing at a very high level in high school. Kids will try and read as fast as they possibly can, so that's why you're seeing them kind of be twitchy. That doesn't happen as much in middle school.
It's necessary for the judge to remove any personal biases when evaluating the round. Because the speech is persuasive in nature, it's helpful to review Aristotle's 3 modes of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos, or ethical appeal, establishes credibility through convincing the audience on the character of the author. This is done through delivery and use of evidence in the speech. Pathos appeals to the emotions of the audience. Logos is persuasion through the use of reason, or logic. In addition to the modes of persuasion, there are a number of key areas to consider when evaluating policy: argumentation and flash. Argumentation. Debate is an exchange of ideas between debaters. As a judge, you are not determining who is the better speaking team, but rather who best utilizes the modes of persuasion to respond to their opponent in the round. As such, declarations relying on charismatic delivery are not well-developed arguments. To have a complete argument, a debater should establish his or her claim, or response to the opponent's claims, the warrant, or why the declaration is true, and establish impact, or why it matters. Arguments lacking this structure should not be given the same weight as fully developed arguments. Simply put, you are not evaluating dueling speeches, but rather an interactive exchange of ideas where each debater is responding to the other's argument. Interaction or clash occurs when a debate team explicitly responds to an argument made by their opponent. As the round progresses, consider each team's case and their opponent's response. Additionally, should a team fail to respond to an argument, the unaddressed argument would carry greater weight if developed in later speeches, since the opponent tacitly agreed to the argument by not responding. As you determine the winner, ask yourself, given only the arguments in the last two speeches, which side presented the best overall policy? Indicate this on the ballot. Ignore arguments introduced for the first time in the final rebuttal. This is important because the opposing side won't have enough time to respond to a new argument. When determining the most persuasive arguments, consider if the opposing debater had an adequate opportunity to respond. Arguments presented for the first time in one of the last two speeches don't meet this standard and should be disregarded. It is important to note, the role of a judge is to evaluate the competing arguments made by the debaters. Views on a topic and beliefs on how to respond to an argument should not factor into your decision. Because debaters are required to argue both sides of a topic, it is necessary for the judge to remove any personal biases when evaluating a round. Overall, remember the job of the debate team is to persuade you of a position. Record which arguments are convincing and which need to be developed. Thank you for judging, and enjoy the experience.
Okay, so a lot of that probably went over your head, which is totally okay. I'm gonna be teaching you the basics of policy debate. If you do policy, there's a bunch of other things I'll have to teach you, just like extemp and just like oratory. There's other stuff you're gonna have to know. Part of the reason I'm bribing you with what is essentially $40 worth of candy for me to give all 60 debaters today, first period and third period, for me to give 5 pieces of candy to each kid is a lot of money, but I'm willing to because I think it's worth it, because the rest of your time in debate is going to be based off of how much you pay attention. So I'll go ahead, turn screens around, but the only thing on your screen should be notes, okay? So one of the things that makes policy a little bit tough is the topic. So one of your notes says resolution equals, I think one of them says that. Resolution, when you see resolved, it's a fancy way of saying topic. So resolution means what, everybody?
Topic.
So if I have a topic, it also is resolution. Resolution is topic is resolution. Okay, so those are interchangeable. And sometimes in debate, we just like making up fancier terms for stuff, because you might be saying, well, why don't you just call it topic? But we just like to be fancy, okay? So one of the ways you would have to decide if you want to do policy debate is based off of if you like this topic or not. I think it's a good one. We've had some in the past that I didn't like quite as much. This one is really debatable, but it's very complex. This is the type of debate that Cannon's going to do. Jack's our sole debate 2 kid in first period. This is the type that he does. So you do have some extra support if you do policy, but you will need that extra support because it's tough. So I bolded it for you. You do not need to write down this whole thing on your notes, guys. On your notes, see the part in bold, just write down intellectual property rights.
I also found that, like, when me just trying to, like, figure out what this meant, because
Yeah.
I didn't even know, like,
Yeah.
what intellectual property
Oh yeah, why would you? You're like 12, right?
Yeah.
13, yeah.
So I asked Gemini to explain
Yeah.
it to me as though I was, like, a fifth grader.
Yes, smart.
And it, like, actually was good.
So you tell us, what have you wrapped your brain around? What does that mean?
Well, so intellectual property rights, they're, like, rights that, like a song or an invention,
Mhm.
and,
Yeah, so let's stop right there, and I'm going to take over. So let's ignore this for just a second. One thing that you need to just kind of, I think it's helpful background information, this topic is chosen at the national level. The National Speech and Debate Association, they have topic voting that happens every year. So people like me and people who have an account, we get to get on, and they have several rounds of voting, and we vote on the next year's topic. So this was voted on by thousands of debaters all over the country, okay? And then every single person in America, and some other countries too, who also do debate like Americans do, they will all be debating this specific topic. and nothing else the whole year long. So one of the ideas, before we break down what intellectual property rights are, one of the ideas in policy debate, the reason it's called policy, it's all about fixing issues in the government. So typically, how many of you have ever seen, maybe not because you're not 16 yet, but how many of you have ever seen memes making fun of the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles? Or how many of you have ever had to go with your parents or somebody when they're waiting in a gigantic government line trying to renew their license or something? Yeah. So typically when the government does stuff, it's really, really big. So sometimes when the government does stuff, it might not be all that effective and it might not be all that fast. And that's because it's just so big. There's so many pieces. And so that's what policy debate does, is we are basically saying, hey, government, you're not super good at this. That's okay, we get it. You have a lot on your plate. Let's help you. In this fictional scenario, I am going to give you a plan that could fix your problems and make them better. So we're basically little mini lawmakers in debate is what we're doing if you choose to do policy debate. Okay, so back to international property rights. Somebody show me something that you own. Something physical that it is yours. If somebody else, yeah. We've got this cool little calculator watch, a phone, a water bottle. Yes, that goldfish cracker, exactly. That is a property. That's a piece of property. Like, I have a piece of paper that says I own my house, and I have a piece of paper that says I own my car, right? Those are physical things that I own. Intellectual property is inventions of the mind. So, for example, I might create a book, and that was my intellectual property. It came out of my brain and is now on the page. Or maybe I created a song, and I spent a long time making that song really awesome. Or maybe I created a new pharmaceutical drug that I'm trying to help people who have cancer. And that was something that I invented in my brain first, and now I invented that. So that's what we're talking about with intellectual property. And so here's the problem. Here's why it's a really good debate topic, and it's really debatable. What if Canon is like, hey, you stole my book idea because you were my creative writing teacher in 6th grade, and I turned this thing in for Free Write Friday, and then you stole that idea, and then you published it, which I would never do because that's a super skeezy thing to do, and I wouldn't do it. Go ahead and just put those ones on the counter so that you can take the card back. But let's say that happened. Exactly, right? And Canon should be outraged and absolutely is allowed to be. But what if I was the first person? Yeah. But what if I was the first person to publish the book and I did it before Canon did? Then according to
I published it on Canvas.
But according to intellectual property rights, it gets really sketchy really fast. Because, exactly like I said, what if I published it on Canvas first? But what if I published it with a publisher first? And that's why it's so debatable, is who owned it first? Who actually owns the rights to it? What if I have an idea and your idea was similar? What if you stole it and marketed it as yours? What if the way the government gave me rights to that thing, like when I have my car, I have a piece of paper, but the way I got the rights to that is pretty clear cut. But what if it's not in certain other situations? So it gets really complex really fast. So this is such a really gigantic topic, intellectual property rights. There's so many ways you could start debating this, that the NSDA narrowed it down to 3 things. They narrowed it down to what are called copyrights, patents, and trademarks. Now, you don't need to be an expert on those yet. If you do policy, you're going to be an expert on those things. Which, if I'm being honest, is a lot to ask of 13 and 14 and maybe a few 12-year-olds. Yeah.
So the patent is like inventions.
Yeah.
The copyright
Exactly.
is like a book, a music, and a movie. And then the trademark is for like the Nike swoosh.
Yeah, and we're gonna break that down more too. But Canon's been doing the right thing.
That's why the NSDA trimmed it down.
We trimmed it down so that you have an area you can focus on. I don't have to know every single thing about all the things with intellectual property, with inventions of the mind. Yeah. I have 3 areas I'm gonna focus on. So turn around your screens one more time. This is quick, but one of the ways, if you are thinking, I want to do policy debate because I know it's the one I could do with a partner, one of the things you have to really be considering is, do I like the topic? So we have to spend a little bit of time on the topic, and then I'll teach you how policy actually works. So let's just wrap our brain around the topic a tiny bit more with a short video.
Intellectual property, or IP, refers to something a person has either thought of or created. Some examples of IP include designs, processes, songs, logos, discoveries, symbols, and even brand new varieties of plants. IP belongs to the person who thought it up or put the work into creating it. They get to decide who makes it, how and where it's used, and who can sell and profit from it. But how can thinkers and creators keep their IP safe from misuse by others? After all, in a digital world, it's easy to copy an idea or a design. Luckily, there are laws in place to protect IP once a person is ready to go public with it. There are 4 major paths to legal protection. Applying for a patent. Patents cover things like inventions, new processes, new machines, and new ways of manufacturing things. Applying for a copyright. Copyrights protect works like art, music, writings, movies, and even software. Using a trademark to cover unique branding and identifiers like business names, logos, slogans, mascots, and more. Keeping something secret. Trade secrets make sure that things like manufacturing processes, formulas, and compilations of information never make it into the wrong hands. Getting these protections in place may seem difficult or time-consuming at first, but protecting yourself is well worth the time and effort, and it's not as hard as you may think. This is where technology transfer, or T2, comes in. T2 helps negotiate the use, share...
We're going to stop there on that one. I have one more video to help you start wrapping your brain around the topic. A little bit like Cannon was saying, he's already done this. But what is the difference between copyright and patent and trademark? So really try and focus because this goes fast.
As an intellectual property lawyer, always get asked what's the difference between copyright, trademark, and patent. At a fundamental level, copyright protects your original creative works such as books, movies, songs, paintings, photographs, and web content. As the owner of a copyright, you can control how your work is reproduced, distributed, and presented publicly, and you can sue infringers in court. An idea itself cannot be copyrighted. A work must be in a fixed, tangible form to be protected.
So like Cannon said, well, if you stole my book idea, I had it first on canvas, or it might have been on actual physical paper that you wrote it down.
Copyright protection provides legal evidence and public notice of ownership, and by allowing the copyright owner to bring suits in court if there's any infringement. Authors, artists, and other creative professionals typically seek copyright protection. On the other hand, trademark protects the names, symbols, or slogans for products or services that you sell. In other words, a trademark lets the consumer tell the difference between one company's product or services from another's. Trademarks include brand names such as Coca-Cola and images such as Nike's famous Swish. As the owner of a trademark, you can sue for trademark infringement and prevent someone else from using your name, symbol, or slogan.
Like, for example, teachers, if we're not careful, like if I had a Disney-themed classroom, Disney could just completely sue the pants off of me. You have to be really careful, right? Or like music teachers are often infringing on copyright laws, which makes sense because there's just not enough money. But sometimes they're copying music that they don't own the rights to, and so they make copies for their whole class. But you have to be really careful. I took a whole class that scared me badly, which was the point of how the many ways teachers can get sued. So you have to be really careful.
A trademark registration can potentially have an unlimited term, but has to be renewed every 10 years. The owner can renew the trademark registration as long as the mark remains in continued use. For more information about how to file your own trademark, feel free to enroll in my course, How to Trademark on Your Own.
And then I'm going to take over just because he's talking a little slower than I would like. A patent. I found out yesterday my dad owns a patent, and I had no idea, which is that I'm now going to interview him and make him give me a lot of debate research we can use. But he was on a team of people who patented the first, I think, terabyte storage system. And then he, if other people tried to be like, we did that first, they would be like, nope, we went to the patent office, we got a patent lawyer, and because this is a physical invention, we now own that. So if somebody else tries to make a bunch of money off of it, we're the ones who actually get to do that, which is interesting and gets really complicated really fast. Now, on your notes, again, you do not need to write down everything. I'm just going to give you a little bit to try and help you make a decision. You can just focus on the bolded part, right? So you could write down this and this, or this, right? Pass Pyrrha. Okay, so if you do policy, there are tons of arguments. And one of the affirmative arguments, which means you're agreeing with the topic, one of the affirmative arguments is saying that the United States should make more requirements for artificial intelligence because it's a very quickly changing technology and hasn't really been around in its current form for all that long in the history of humanness. And so because it's changing so much, we need more regulations because it gets really sketchy really fast. Like, for example, did anyone hear the Scarlett Johansson controversy? Where the makers of ChatGPT said, when we have our voice that reads stuff, can we hire you? Can we use your voice? And she said no. And then it came out, and one of their many voices totally sounded like her. So now there's a lawsuit of, is that an infringement on her rights of intellectual property? So we might just try and argue, you know what, we need some more laws to help us clear up weird situations like that. So that's one argument. Another argument is we should pass this certain law. And if you do policy, you'll have to study this law a lot, which is one of the hard things about it. Sometimes when the laws get made, they're like 500 pages long. So this is called the Patent Eligibility Restoration Act. About 20 years ago, the way the government gave patents, which is you made this invention, you own it, the way they did patents changed. It used to be the first person who invented it, they had the right to the patent. But 20 years ago, it changed to the first person to go file the patent, they have the first right to it. And so this is trying to say, that might not be a good change. We should probably fix that, because we discovered there's lots of problems. So on your notes, it said pick one possible affirmative argument, and you could have literally just written down pass Pyrrha and just move on and ignore that for right now. Okay, so then a little bit more on Pyrrha, which I've done about 3 hours of research on this topic, so I'm also wrapping my brain around it, but I had to learn about this, and I think it's helpful if you do policy.
You know about Alice?
No. And that's the thing, in policy, sometimes you're going to know more than I do. Exactly. And one day we're going to want to try and bribe your dad into coming to after school practice and just like letting policy kids bounce their ideas. Yeah, we really should. Yeah. Okay.
Really important development in patent reform has been the introduction of the Patent Eligibility Restoration Act. Long title, we call it Pyrrha. It addresses these really bad Supreme Court decisions from about a decade ago that have completely undermined the ability of innovators in the biotech and the high-tech areas of the U.S. innovation economy from receiving reliable and effective patents, essentially excluding innovations in that space. This is incredibly important for ensuring the continued growth of the U.S. innovation economy and for addressing competitive challenges faced globally from countries such as China.
So that's one of the reasons why this topic matters to you and to me so much, is
really important.
The competitive aspect of when people invent stuff. What if somebody invented a mousetrap a billion years ago and it worked? But what if somebody comes along and they're like, I have a better idea? That's what we want. We want growth and improvement. But sometimes growth and improvement is not incentivized. Like, I'm incentivizing you with candy, which Avery is nicely getting ready for me, right? But we want businesses to spend the time and the money creating new products and new things that make our lives better. And sometimes the way the laws are set up, like intellectual property, don't incentivize them. That the company's like, it's not worth it to me. Like, I'm going to have to hire somebody like Kanan's dad, and that's a lot of money, and it just, like, it might not pay off. It's kind of a gamble, right? What if I do it and somebody else had already made that? Or what if I invent it and somebody steals it from me? And so we need competitiveness. Yeah.
My dad said it like people that like invest in inventions, like they like that idea, but they're gonna stop investing if they think, because he told me about like there was that new AI, like Smile AI or something that like destroyed ChatGPT stuff.
Yes, exactly. And that's part of why this is a topic. That is changing so much.
Yeah, well, so then like, you know, investors in ChatGPT, like, you know, they were like, oh yeah, this is great, like let's try and make this work.
Yeah.
And then they spent like, I don't know, $5 billion.
Yeah.
And then the like Smile AI came for like $5 mil.
Exactly.
And then investors like pulled out and they were like, I want to support them.
But we need that competitiveness in the market, right? In the world to have new inventions. I have to stop only because we have a lot we have to get to. And I'm so sorry. I love that you know so much. So just a possible neg argument, you could just write down that law, period, increases uncertainty. That would be enough. That there's some issues. Every time a law happens, sometimes we think it's going to work really well. And then we're like, ooh, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. So we'll stop right on that one. Or you might argue right here, stifles AI innovation, which is what we've just been saying. We want things to be creative, but sometimes the law disincentivizes people, okay? So make sure you wrote down one of them. It could have just been peer increases uncertainty. So let's stop talking about the topic, because that's enough for you to be able to decide, do I hate that? Do I love that door? And you also have to know how policy works. So I'm going to go pretty quick here. So you all have to be following along with the notes. If you have something else on your screen, you're going to be falling behind really quickly, okay? So all the underlined stuff, because AF and NEG have a different job in policy debate. And if you do policy debate, you will be both AF and NEG. So one of the things AF does is they make a plan. Like literally one that hypothetically I could be like, hey, government, you're bad at this. Here's something that you can use. Here's how much it's going to cost. Here's how long it's going to take. Use my plan. I just solved your problems for you. So not only do they make a plan to solve the issue, but they also defend the topic. They're saying, yeah, I agree that we need to protect intellectual property rights more. So AF has to do both of those things. Then NEG also has two jobs. NEG comes along and is going to try and destroy the AF's plan. They're going to say stuff like, it costs way too much money. The government could never do that. Or it's going to take way too long. The government could never do that. So they're going to just try and take down the AF plan. And they're going to attack the topic itself. They're going to say stuff like, hey, yeah, intellectual property rights matter, but you know what matters more? That global extinction could happen if we don't fix climate change. And so NEG is going to attack the topic itself and attack the AF's plan really quick.
That's part of what makes this topic good, because it's confusing.
Yeah.
So
you'll get kids who don't understand their own arguments. They can't debate them.
If you have like a super confusing but like
Yep.
good argument
Yep.
that you can back up with stuff, and like it's confusing, so you're.
I have to cut you off. I'm not trying to be rude. We just have a lot to get through. You are totally correct, though. Yeah, you're doing great. Okay, so one of the yays, it's a team event. And this is on your blanks, right? Because it's underlined, so write it down, everybody. It's a team of two versus a team of two. So there's great things and really bad things about that. Number one, if you get a good partner who actually pulls their weight, you might destroy everybody else because you are prepared for lots and lots of arguments. You have double the amount of people doing research, you have double the brains understanding, and you get to work together. So yay. But what if I pick a partner who, number one, is totally slacking off and doesn't help me with the work? My job is twice as hard. Number two, it has happened where kids pick policy debate because they're like, I get to work with a partner? You're my BFF, yay, let's be partners, let's do policy. And then you're gonna have disagreements. It is going to happen that you and your partner will butt heads sometimes. And you have to, that's one of the good life skills about debate, is we have to learn how to deal with disagreements. But I've had kids who were best friends, did policy debate, and weren't friends anymore after it because they could not handle that we butt heads with each other, and now we're not friends anymore because we couldn't figure out how to be mature about disagreements. So I am warning you, it has happened. It happens at least once every single year that there's a blow up, that one kid's like, I hate you, you're so dumb, and then they're like not doing policy anymore. and one kid will drop out at the last second, and you just are like, well, what do I do now? Now I'm by myself, right? That happens, and I have warned you. So be very careful if you do policy, who you do it with. Okay, so the time limits in policy are long. I will show you what each one means, but there's a pattern here. There's 4 sets of 5-2. 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2. And then there's 4 sets of 3. 3-3, 3-3. Jazz hands to make it fun. Everybody stand up. Let's wake up your brain for just a second. So get some 5s and some 2s ready. This is how you remember. So we do 4 of these, and then we switch to 3s. Okay, everybody, here we go. 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, 3-3, 3-3. Jazz hands. I made that up. That doesn't exist anywhere else. Wait, one more time. Let's do it faster. Ready? 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, 5-2, 3-3, 3-3. Jazz hands. Okay, so here's what those mean, and notice there's some stuff that you have to write on your notes, so be following along, y'all. So this looks insane. You're like, how does this work? There's a trick to reading this map, okay? So over here, A stands for, everybody? AF. N stands for? CX stands for? Cross-examination. There's 2 parts to a debate. There's the constructive block. This is on your notes. And if I'm going to construct something, like my husband's whole family works in construction. They build stuff. A lot of the Mavericks you see is my husband's dad's construction company. Okay? They built all those. They constructed it. So that's the first half of the debate. We're just building arguments. Construct is build. It goes on your notes. Then there's the rebuttal. Exactly. Those are the 5-2, 5-2s. Then the 3-3, 3-3s are the rebuttal block. And remember, we practiced rebuttals when we did Werewolves of Coatesville. If I'm going to rebut something, it means I attack or defend. I'm attacking your argument and I'm defending my arguments. Rebuttals. So all of this stuff, attack, defend, okay? So that's what the C is for. C is for what, everybody? Constructive. And the R is for? And why are there 1s and 2s? Because there's 2 people. It's a team of 2 versus a team of 2. So the first partner, they talk for 5 minutes. Then, this is why the nickname of policy is Cross-X Debate. There's 4 different cross-examinations, but that's because there's 4 kids who read a speech, just building their arguments up. So this kid talks, the other side attacks him. Another kid talks, they get attacked. Another one, they get attacked. Another one, they get attacked. And it switches. Af, neg, first partner, second partner. First partner, second partner. And then we just start attacking everybody. And it just goes neg, af. Af gets the last word on this. So if you added all of these numbers up, it's 46 minutes long. It doesn't mean you yourself are talking for 46 minutes. One person would talk for, 10. That's the amount of time you would personally talk for, which, remember, compared to extemp is only like 3 minutes. If you do policy, you would be talking for 10 minutes every time. But that's only if you use up all your time. Lots of newbie policy kids from Indian Hills will get up and just give up tons of their time, which is really bad strategy. There's also prep time. Prep time, each side. AF gets prep time. Neg gets prep time, but it's a little different than it is in SPAR debate. Prep time in policy happens in the second half of the debate. I come to the debate ready for the constructive part. All this stuff I prepped during class before the tournament. But I can't necessarily prep every single thing I'm going to say down here. I can do a lot of guessing, but I can't prep all of it. So let's say I'm the 1NR, which means I'm partner number 1, negative rebuttal, and I'm just about to speak. I would literally say to the judge, I'm going to use 1.5 minutes of prep time, which means everything stops, and I have 1.5 minutes to just sit and make my plan of attack. And then my partner also has 1.5 minutes, and the same thing on the other side. And guess what? When the other side is prepping, you also get to prep. So there's technically 6 minutes of prep time, but 3 of it is solely yours. So they're long debates, and some kids like him, and they're like, I get to talk more? Yay! And the other kids are like, I don't want to talk that much. Okay, so here's how cross-examination works. I need 4 volunteers really, really fast to come on down. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Come on down. 2 of you stand on this side, 2 of you stand on this side. Quick. So I'm going to show you. Let's pretend we have policy partners here. Okay, Jake and Cannon, let's pretend you're partners. Summer, come on this side with Piper. And let's pretend they're AF and they're neg. And here's how cross-X works, okay? let's say Cannon just came with his pre-written speech. So he just gave that 5-minute speech. While he is getting attacked by one of these awesome ladies on the neg, his partner Jake is ignoring everything that's happening during cross-examination, and Jake is over there getting his stuff ready for his 5-minute speech. And then it switches. Then, after they're done attacking Cannon on his 5-minute speech, one of them is going to give a 5-minute speech, and when they're done, Cannon is going to cross-examine...
I'm gonna absolutely murder
Exactly.
everything they said.
Cannon's going to cross-examine them while his partner is still getting ready for his 5-minute speech. And let's say that he's cross-examining Piper. Summer is ignoring everything that's happening, and she's prepping her upcoming speech as well. So may all go sit back down. Thank you so much. So the added benefit, this is on your notes, guys. An added benefit of cross-examination, smart kids, it's extra prep time. That's what you should put on your notes. Added benefit, it's extra prep time. Cross-examination. And there's a lot of it. So there's a lot of extra built-in prep time, okay? So, I told you the story of me beating the Mount Jordan coach with a giant trophy, right? Do you remember that from Friday? And the Mount Jordan coach did what I'm about to do in a much more dramatic, much more cool way. And the reason he got to throw chairs while he did this demonstration is because his classroom was the band classroom, and there was a lot of extra space. I cannot do that. I would break the projector and stuff. So I'm going to do this with cups. I want you to imagine, though, I did this with chairs, and I threw a chair at one point, and it was really dramatic, and you're all like, whoa. Okay, so just pretend. Okay, I'm going to throw some terms at you. If you do policy, you'll be an expert in these things. But a lot of you won't do policy, so you can sort of half listen here. Policy kids have to set up the groundwork for their debate. So they're going to set up, I'll find the right one. The first thing they have to prove, they come and before they argue anything else, the AF is going to say, this topic is totally significant. It matters. This is not on your notes yet. So they are building a foundation. They have research to prove that. Then they also have to prove what's called inherency. They have to argue that this topic is not just going to fix itself. Like if I have a pimple, eventually it goes away. It fixes itself. But in policy, the AF has to argue this isn't going away unless you vote for me, unless the government does this plan. So they've got research, so they're building a foundation. Then they have to try and prove what's called harms. They have to prove that stuff's being hurt. Otherwise, why would you need to vote for me if there's no point? So I'm going to have some research of stuff that's being hurt. Then they have to prove topicality. They're going to make sure they're actually arguing intellectual property rights and not something else. That's topicality. We're staying on topic. After they've laid all this groundwork, then they have a plan of here's how much it costs, here's how I'm going to fix it, who in the government is going to do this thing, here's how long it's going to take. They have research for all of that. Then the final cherry on top is what's called solvency. That I am going to have to prove that all of this actually solves problems. Otherwise, exactly, the problems I laid out. Otherwise, what's the point? If my plan doesn't actually do anything, why would the judge vote for it? So AF does all this hard work, and then the neg comes along. Let's pretend this pony head represents the neg. And the neg is like, oh, finish talking so I can destroy you. And the neg comes along, and they have all this research, and they probably predicted some of the stuff AF was going to say. And they come to the tournament, and they do this. And I'm sorry if this hits anyone in the face. Ready? They're like, ha, ha, ha! You can just leave it, guys. And so that's how, debate works, is we build up arguments, and then we're going to try and tear them down. Okay, next. You need to know this exists. Some kids at the high varsity level do this. It does happen a lot more in high school. I show you this to scare you for a reason. Okay? Watch for a second.
The lesson for this debate is that you cannot go for impact turns for critique and not answer the other team's framework for impact claims or no value to life. We have a couple conceded arguments. The ace point is that they conceded Bill 99 would accept there's no value to life in the framework. They conceded the argument that political calculations reach the ratio of perspectives and also other ideas are in the case that these ideas are the foundation. Democratization is increasing capacity common sense to the frequency of all records and then counter-information of the risk of reaching. Of the Park Resolution, which are controversial traditional by the state doesn't tax.
Are you a little bit scared? You should be. Okay, here's the strategy. So, I'm not saying this is a good strategy, but it exists. The strategy here, so it's called spewing and spreading. I think your note said, what does SPREAD stand for? It's an acronym. It's short for speed, read. SPA-RED, right? Speed, read. And spewing is just, I'm literally just word spewing on you. It's like word vomit, yeah. Ah, thank you for asking that. I forgot to say. So those things together, all these cups together, are called the stock issues. And you only have to worry about them if you do policy debate, but I will guide you through them, okay? But those things together, significance, harms, inherency, solvency, are a topicality, are the stock issues. Put it on your notes. Okay, so, yeah. Yeah, take off the tie, and then just, you don't even have to wrap up the cord though. Okay, so the reason people spread, they speed read. If I am your opponent, Penny, and I come with 50 arguments, and I'm like, right? And I read it super crazy fast, then Penny has to respond to 50 arguments. Because if I'm smart, then I'm going to be like, she only responded to 2.
And
She dropped 48 arguments. I win. But here's the downside. Number 1, what if the judge doesn't understand, right? You lose. Number 2, what if I have really, really good arguments rather than just a lot of them? So there is this balance we're trying to kind of find in debate, okay? So if you do policy, one of the things you'll start by doing is reading, and notice the underline, so answers on your notes. There's lots of reading in policy. There's tons of research, because a lot of teams all over the country know how hard policy is, so they just put all of their stuff on the internet, which is technically their intellectual property, which I find that hilarious, that we're debating against intellectual property, and we're sharing intellectual property with each other. They're going to share the stuff they already found. Say again.
Will said that he made this thing of all the fallacies, and he didn't share it to anybody because he didn't want anybody to copy it.
Yeah, because he was aware of intellectual property. But I want to show you. I haven't done this in the past, and I think I was wrong in not showing you. This is what a lot of it looks like. So if this scares you, don't do policy. For real, straight up. I will show you how to read these. There's a strategy involved if you do policy. But you'll be reading literally hundreds of pages of stuff that looks like this if you do policy. So you need to be thinking about that. Because again, a lot of kids are like, I get to work with a partner. And I'm like, but wait, okay? So a lot of it is done for you. There's what's called, here's another debate acronym, we love them, UTOP, Debate Coaches Association. The UDCA, they are awesome, and they made pre-written affirmative speeches and made pre-written negative speeches. You can straight up use those. They are giving you permission to use their intellectual property. So yes, those exist, but kids show up and don't actually understand them and can't debate them.
Yeah, they'll just
Okay? So I'm going to have to go through the speed round. So I'm going to tell you the tough stuff about policy, and I'm going to tell you the great stuff about policy, because I'm not trying to hide anything from you. If you choose to do this, I want you to make a well-informed decision, okay? So let's really focus here. Go ahead and turn around your screens just during this slide really quick. Number 1, if you do policy, it is straight up double, twice the amount of the other types of debate. And you will have homework, guaranteed. If you want to not win and do policy, then maybe you can get away with not doing homework. But if you want to win in policy, most kids will do about a half an hour of homework every single day because they want to win, okay? Number 2, it usually takes more than 1 year to get successful. Not always. I have had some new kids who win, and that's because I know what I'm doing. I can help you. But sometimes kids really want to win, but they're an 8th grader, and they do policy, and they're like, oh, I wish I had taken debate in 7th grade. I could have been doing so much better at this point because I would have been doing it for so much longer. So just know that sometimes is a sad thing. I already told you, sometimes partnerships straight up fail. That you have to be aware of that, okay? Number 4, in first period, what if we only have 2 teams who do policy? That means you're debating each other all the time, which does get a little boring after a while. Jack can attest to that because that happened to him last year also. So that is a downside sometimes. There is a lot extra you have to be prepared for because there's so many arguments out there floating around on the interworld. And so there's just so much that the good kids are just constantly preparing. This might be an argument, so I'm going to maybe get ready for it. Yeah, it's an upside that there's a lot of stuff that's already done for you.
But everybody has access.
Exactly. Other kids have access to it, okay? I couldn't fit it all onto one slide. So here's tough stuff part 2. It is reading an insane amount of high school level research and speeches. Some kids love that because they're like, I'm going to know more than a lot of adults, which is very true. But it is high level reading. A lot of it at the beginning of the semester, you'll read something, you have to pause and research that. Read, pause, research. So that, it can be a bummer. Good policy debaters have research for everything they say. Everything. Because guess what the opponent's argument is going to be? If I say blah, 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 I'm going to be like, where's your source for that? Where's the research? And that's tough. I only taught you the basics. We have to have about 20 more lessons before you know all the things you have to know just for your first tournament. So there's a lot of getting all the rest of the strategy. Most of the Indian Hills team does policy. So like oratory, when they write a speech, they have 90 brains helping them make that one speech better. Same with Indian Hills and policy. They do a lot of policy, so they have a lot more people to practice with, and it makes them better in that way. And here's another downside I need you to be aware of. I am a policy expert. I know what I'm doing, which is very braggy, but I do. But I have to learn the topic every year, because the topic changes every year. So last year, I had to become an expert in wealth distribution was last year's topic. This year, I have to become a little bit of an expert in intellectual property rights. One year, I had to become an expert in, air pollution was one a while ago. And so you're going to know more than me about the topic, straight up. I'm not trying to, wiggle out of things. I've only done 3 hours of research on this topic so far. You're going to do a lot more than me. And you will ask me questions that I will say, I don't know. And I know that's not normal in school, so you need to be prepared for that. You might get an answer where it's like, I will try and help you find it, but you might just have to go do the research yourself to figure it out. Okay, so hopefully I've scared you sufficiently. You need to be scared if you do policy a little bit, but there's also really good stuff about policy. Like I said, kids who love policy, it's like their whole world. So, on your notes, you're going to pick 2 of these, the 2 that you like. So go ahead, turn your screens around. You're going to pick 2 of these that you like. It is the most prestigious, which means brag-worthy event, because it is so hard, which means if you win, it's that much more impressive. The pre-written speeches, some kids really like that they don't have to write their own speech. There is no memorization. You can straight up just read the speech from the computer. Unlike oratory, you have to memorize the whole thing. The challenge, some kids love the challenge. They need a challenge. They are excited to be able to know that much and debate that much. Another good thing is the tons of resources. Policy is the oldest type of debate. Debate has been around for a long, long time. But out of all the 21 types of speech and debate, policy has been around the longest. So there's so much floating around. The trophies are physically bigger. So if you really are motivated by shininess, the trophies are physically bigger because it's a bigger deal. You get the support pick from your partner if they're good. We've won the state tournament 4 times. 4. That means 4 different teams. And if you win first place in policy, you and your partner get a first place trophy. So we've won 4 different times. I know what I'm doing. Okay? And if you win in policy, it feels like $1 million. The win experience and being proud of yourself, you're like, dang, I'm amazing. It feels really good. But honestly, guys, it kind of stinks for a long time before it feels really good. It's just normal. So this is on your notes. The people who should do policy debate are people who are really willing to work really hard. That's the answer. Work really hard. No one can do policy thinking you're just automatically going to be good at it. You have to approach it with, it's going to be hard, she told me that, but you know what? I'm a smart kid and I'm capable of doing tough stuff, and I know I'm not going to give up. And so anyone who's willing to work really hard should do policy debate. And also, I always say it's good for the types of kids who are just bored all day, every day in school, because you're not being challenged. And so if you're never being challenged, you might love policy, because you're finally going to have a challenge. On your notes, it says, do not do policy if you can't come to after-school practice. And after-school practice is typically on Tuesdays. Sometimes it has to change. But for real, literally, one of the questions I'm going to ask you, if you say I'm going to do policy debate, I'm going to say, have you thought deeply about your partner? And number 2, can you come to after-school practice? And if the answer is no, because I have football practice every Tuesday, I'm going to say, don't do policy. Because there's literally not enough time in first period debate to do all the things we have to do in policy. Some of them we literally have to save for after-school practice. Okay, so I don't have time to show you this example. If you're interested in policy, you should go home and watch at least half of this. We're out of time. So I have 3 more announcements. Don't move when the bell rings. Number 1, some kids have been asking, and I think it's a good question. Midterm is coming up. Here's February's calendar. Midterm, I don't raise citizenship to H's yet. So that's coming. Most of you are on track for an H, but it's at an S until midterm. Number 2, debate practice. Sometimes I'm constrained by what the high school assistants can do. So debate practice was scheduled for tomorrow, but it's now on Wednesday, which means I also have to reschedule ASL Academy. That's next week, right here. So after school debate practice is now Wednesday, not Tuesday, because one of our high school assistants has really major stuff going on in her life. So if you're going to do policy, you have to be ready to be here this Wednesday and next Tuesday, but usually it's on Tuesdays, okay? Last announcement. How many of you paid attention to the nightly news when they had that little mini, it was Miss Matherin. There was a donkey, they are hiding the donkey, and people who find it, they win something, and then it moves on to the next teacher, and the next teacher hides it. Okay? If that doesn't sound familiar, I am sorry, but I currently have the donkey. So in the last 4 minutes, everyone should go get 5 pieces of candy. Wait. The donkey is very well hidden, but you don't need to open up any cupboards or drawers. It's somewhere very well hidden, but it probably won't get found, is my guess. Can you pick those up for me by chance and bring them back to my desk? Thank you so much. Okay, everyone gets 5 pieces. Feel free to look for Rostam, I think is his name. He's from the Many Assassinations of Samir book. You don't have to climb anything to find him. Yeah, I didn't want anyone to die, so get off, because I don't want you dying. Let me squeeze back here, guys. But yeah, I thank you for for your enthusiasm with finding Rostam. Okay, everyone gets 5. So I can't tell you, but it is a little mini stuffed donkey, and you only have 3 more minutes. Okay, guys, make sure you turned in your notes. Avery, go ahead and stop right there. Throw away all the packaging from that stuff, and then put the lid on that box, and put the box on the counter, and then put the computer back here. Will you use the front trash can, because that's the least used trash can for all that trash? Thank you. It is, and thank you very much for doing that. I really appreciate it. Okay. Oh, actually, there is one more cup, guys. It's on the 3rd row. Somebody give me that. Thank you. It's okay, because I was trying to make it very dramatic and exciting. Okay, if anyone has questions about policy, don't forget, you need to get your candy now, because I have to lock it up soon. Okay. I'm going to give everybody 2 coins. I'm not telling you. I cannot. Nope, I can't tell you. It's in the classroom.
I know,
but I'm not telling you. You can.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I see where you were asking. Okay.
How many?
Okay, guys. Last call if you didn't get your 5 pieces of candy. Or stickers. Okay. Sorry, I know I'm taking up some room here. Okay. For real, I'm locking the candy up in 1 more minute. Okay, let me